Hi everybody, it's me again. So I have Photoshop open. This is Photoshop 2020, but most Photoshops are pretty similar. What's great about Photoshop 2020 is that it has the latest RAW filters, which means when you open your photo up in RAW, you've got something called texture now, you've got the radial tool, and it reads most RAW files. So I think the very old versions of RAW couldn't read some of the Nikon RAW formats. But here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the comments from Conrad, and I'm just going to choose a couple of photos where he says the dodging and burning, get rid of the bright areas, and I'm just going to show you how I would do it. So lots of different ways to do it. Of course, you can also do this in Lightroom. The RAW engine in Lightroom is so very similar to the RAW engine in Photoshop. So yeah, the first one we're going to look at is Tom LeBeur's photo. Look, you got 12 golds for this, but all I'm looking at is the comments. Okay, and he says the image is quite bright in some areas and the highlights can be toned down a bit. So let's see what we can do. So the first thing to do is open as. Okay, then down here you choose your camera raw. Okay, earlier versions of Photoshop will probably have it down here, and you just use your camera raw, and you'll see the camera is the longest. It actually goes onto my other screen there. Like, okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to choose one. We say open, and you just wait a few seconds, and there we go. There you have your. Let me just really extend it so we can see it nice and big. Okay. So now this is wildlife, so you can't move pixels, but you can darken and lighten pixels. So overall, this is what you get overall. Okay. So I don't want to fiddle too much overall. I think it's all about the adjustment brushes. But if you take the exposure and just take it down a little bit, straight away that improves the contrast as well, which is really, really nice. I'm going to leave it like that. Fantastic. I'm going to do that. Now, if you go all the way to the end, you see it just goes really dull and horrible. You want to get that back to naught, you just double click there. Okay. There's no sort of real shadows. So if you want to get rid of shadows, then that's what you do. But again, if you go right to the end, you see it's not really very nice. So it's really all about the highlights, and I'm going to use the adjustment brushes. So up here, there's your adjustment brush. Okay, and these are all settings that I used last. So you want to reset your settings, you just go there, the three little lines, you click, and everything goes back to naught. So you can just guess what you think it should be, because then you can always adjust it later. You then make your brush bigger by using the bracket keys on your keyboard. So I want to make it bigger, bigger, bigger. Okay, and so I'm just going to brush a little bit here, and sort of over there. And then you go back, and then you can just, oh, see, I like that. Just like that. It's also, you can take a bit of highlights away. And then sometimes what I do is it's so bright and so glaring, I actually go to saturation, and then I just drop it like by -2, -3. So it just pushes it slightly back. But we don't want to make it unnatural. So you see, I mean, that's, oh, actually that's quite nice. But that's a little bit unnatural. It looks like there's no brightness in the back, and there's only sun on the face. And, well, because there's bright spots there, the judge is going to go, well, sure, that's quite a lot of processing. Now, I don't know how most judges feel about wildlife and a whole lot of processing, which you're allowed to do in this case, the dodging burning, but I'm not sure. So I would rather just, keep it as natural as possible. Bearing in mind that actually, that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? That looks really, really nice. The more I look at it, the more I actually quite like it. And look at this section here where it was completely burnt out. And all that, I'm going to make this smaller now so I can just point it. All this detail is now coming up. So if you want to keep it something like that, looks like there's just a bit of sunlight coming through there. Then you go and you take your radial tool, and again you just reset it. And you can actually put it over this eye here. Okay, and you go here and you want it inside, and then you just add a little bit of exposure there, maybe even a little bit of saturation, and you have a pretty cool image. But again, it just depends on what you like and what you don't like. So if we go back to here, we're still on, yeah, exposure. You can sort of bump that up a little bit more. Yeah, just depends what you like. Okay, I actually quite like that now. So don't be scared to take this right to the end and see what it does. You know, I think that's quite nice. So I'm going to open image. So you've got Adobe RGB and my working profile in Photoshop is sRGB. You should be doing sRGB because sRGB projects better on screens and on projectors. So if you are doing Adobe RGB, maybe there's some things they're not going to project properly. Okay, so just be careful of that. Now when I'm looking at this, you go to Control L. Control L is your levels. And levels in Photoshop, this is the best little tool. So what you can do is here, you think, okay, maybe add a little bit of light and then just darken the midtones. And how is that? Okay, so let's now, I'm going to save this as F. F means filled with, or, you know, the other word if you've messed it up. And then this is the original. Oh, see now I'm opening everything in camera. Oh no, I keep on saying opening as. Okay, I should stop, but I'm not going to. Open, not open as. So I just automatically go to open as. You know, I'm starting to like all formats. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that was the original, and this is like fiddled right down. So you decide, maybe this is fiddled too much. That's up to you to decide. Or there's a spot there that I've missed. Okay, and a couple of spots on the branches. But yeah, I think that's really nice. But again, up to you to decide. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I'm going to open another of Tom's. What does he say? The focus should be on the eyes and focusing to be on the bridge, but the background brightness can be toned down. Okay, so we're going to open as camera raw. Okay, let's open that there. Yeah, so I don't think it's that bright. What you can do is, you know, you can bring the highlights down there, and then you can take your brush and then you can sort of make that brighter there and make that brighter there, and you see what you can do with the adjustment brush. And I'm doing it very rough here, kind of thing. The other thing that's wonderful to do is you see we're doing the brush now. So I want to get back to, so here we go. So we're back in the main panel. Sorry, my video stopped working. So I'm used to Photoshop, so here we go. So this is sharpening. Now, if you open a raw file, the sharpening is slightly different there. But this is the JPEG, so you can sharpen a little bit. See, that's over sharpened completely. But you can actually see, you don't want to go too noisy. Masking is wonderful. You take that and you hold your Alt key down, and everything white has been sharpened. So you see, you just drag it and drag it, like everything has been sharpened there. And then only the sort of the foreground is being sharpened. So I think that's quite nice. The other thing, if you go to Effects, this is post crop vignetting. So make sure you've cropped your photo and you've done everything you need. The crop is up there. And then what you can do is you can darken it around the edges. Because you don't want to do that. Okay, you want to do it quite subtly. So just watch the corners there. And your eye just starts going more and more to there. If you want to go back to the adjustment brushes, again, come on, click, reset, take away exposure, highlights, and then make your brush bigger. And if you just want to make all this a bit darker here, you can. And then once you've sort of brushed, you can fiddle. Now it's going to start to go a bit grey, so just check when it starts going grey. Okay, but yeah, there we go, something like that. So let's see what it looks like. If you press Shift or no, Control Alt, you open Copy. Okay, again it's going to convert it, and I'm going to save it as F. Okay. And then I'm going to open the original. And hopefully it doesn't open in RAW. There we go. So that's the original. And then that's what I did. The original. And then you can see, once you tone down a bright area, you see, oh, it was actually quite bright. So something like that. Don't know if you think it's better or not. So there we go. These are just the things that you can do. Okay. Next picture is the apple. And this is Mommy Monkey and Me. So let's open that. Where's Mommy Monkey and Me? Mommy Monkey and Me. So this is this beautiful, beautiful light. And what he said was, negative space and it can be cropped out, making a portrait-oriented image. The light option it needs a bit of sharpening. Okay, so I think if you sharpen this, okay, C for crop, and you can maybe do that. I think that does make a stronger image. And then sharpening, if you don't want to use the raw, you go to the sharpen tool and you go up here, normal, strength. Again, you can use the bracket tool on your keyboard to make your brush smaller or bigger, and you can brush over there. Now, be careful with sharpening, because then it starts looking really noisy. So I think maybe it's just the quality of the photo was taken at. Yeah, I would kind of just leave it as it is. What you can do is Control L. When you use this, okay, let's get it back to where it was. Sometimes you can make it look slightly sharper just with a bit of contrast, but I don't think there was anything wrong with that. So yeah, I would just leave that photo as it is. Okay, let's go to, no, I don't want to save. So the other thing I want to open as is this landscape by Denise. Open as camera raw. Okay. And it said, like the composition, the image is a bit flat and some Photoshop work. You can add more detail. Okay, so let's just try. So let's look at the shadows. So if you take away some shadows, that's if you take away lots of shadows. Okay. If you take away some shadows, I don't know. If you add some clarity, now remember clarity actually makes things darker. So I've taken away some shadows. Ooh, so if you look at that tree there, so just go back to clarity, and then if you sort of add clarity, see how it really starts bringing out the clarity there. So I actually quite like that. I'm going to take a couple of highlights. Just these were quite bright there. I don't know if you need to use the adjustment brush in this case, something like that. And then the last thing I would do, I don't usually use this contrast. I just prefer levels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a copy. It's also, right, and then you Control L for levels. So let's have a look. Now there is lots of black there, and it says there's something white, and I think it's these branches here that are burnt out. But so what you can do is just add a little bit, and it just makes it pop slightly. I actually don't know if that's actually done anything. So let's open the image. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So that was the original image, and that's the image now. So there's just, really it was that clarity. They just added a whole lot of definition here and in here. So I quite like that. So it's just another way of looking at it. Okay, on to the next one. No, we don't want to say it. Okay, so a very good copy. Oh, so this one got a 9 silver. Okay. And they're talking about, oh, did I say open as? Open as. Oh, so I want to show you how, and I'm sure with the raw file you can do this. So shadows. Okay, so now if you do that, you'll see that black starts going green. So you've done it too much. Okay, but you just double click, you go back. But if you do something like that and fill a little bit with the blacks, not too much because you don't want it to go. Starting, you see there's a little bit more detail coming in the eye there, a little bit more detail. Yeah, it's going a bit green, so you have to just be quite careful. You can fiddle. Now exposure is a very powerful tool, so even just 0.2. Okay, now this is where I would fiddle a bit with the contrast just to see what it would look like, because it went quite flat. Okay, highlights, the background is also starting to highlight out, sort of burn out there. A bit of clarity, and again, a clarity can make it darker. So you see what clarity does. So you see, watch this section here, how it just brings out the different textures of the fur. Okay, maybe a little bit of vibrance. Okay, and then maybe just go to the brush, a little bit of exposure, not too much. My shadows down. Oh, smaller brush, and then just brush. Oh, you see now it's already starting to go green. So just bring it down. So obviously you need to try and take a better image, okay? But this is just to show you that you can improve. Maybe even put some light in the ears there if you go to your sharpening and just add a bit of sharpening. Okay, because you've added a bit of clarity, which also sharpens, and then you really just want that. You don't want the background sharpened. You sharpen the background and it gets really quite noisy. So something like that. Again, let's open the copy. File, open. Let's open the original. Okay, so that's the original, and then you've managed to get some detail back in the black, but again, be careful. As soon as your blacks turn green or they look like they've got fluff on them, then you've gone too far. And you can definitely lighten that ear there. So that's the original, and that's what you can do. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, no, you don't want to save. Okay, let's see where we're going next. We will really told me. Okay. This was perched on a branch. Open as. Okay, so this is just the branch, and again, too bright, the adjustment brush. You go reset, reset. Take a tiny bit of exposure, tiny bit of highlights, and then make your brush, and then just brush over there. Don't go over like I'm going. Just be a bit more responsible. Okay, and there's actually beautiful texture there, and so what you can do is the clarity, and clarity makes it darker anyway. Yeah, really bringing that out there, and then just a little bit, and a slight bit more in exposure. Okay, so now I've gone over there, so it's not looking good, but straight away that is now pushed into the background, and you have this lovely bird. In here, maybe new. Okay, maybe like just tiny, and a tiny bit of, and I just there, just by the eye. Okay, yeah, and then yeah, there would be a lovely photo. Yes, it is a little bit noisy. I know some people will then take the brush and then blur that, but I think that's moving pixels, so yeah, I wouldn't do that. Let's open a copy. And let's open the original. Okay, so that's what the branch looked like. That's what the branch looks like now. So a beautiful detail in the branches. Okay, so you can easily get that back. It took 5 seconds. And yes, I wasn't very careful there, but you can be more careful. Okay, no. Okay, let's see what's. Oh, this is the white. Have I done the white-bellied sunbird? Okay, open as. Here we go. So this, the judge said this was a bit flat. Okay, so the first thing I would do is just get rid of a couple of shadows, because look at that. Look at this here. I'm going to go there again. So watch there and watch the detail now come out. Okay. This is where you can fiddle with contrast a bit, but then also go to levels. Levels. Okay, now contrast obviously makes the darks dark and the lights lighter because it's contrasty, isn't it? So, here we go. Some shadows. Okay, I personally like the background. What did he say about the background? White belly sunbird. The exposure is a bit bright and flat. The focus on the chest instead of the eye. Okay, well, what we can then do is just go and let's just do a little bit of sharpening. Okay, that's too much, obviously. So something like that. You do your masking, you hold your Alt button down and you move it, and you'll see that it just makes everything in white sharper. So the background is left. I think the background is lovely. What you then can do again is your adjustment brush. We're going to, oh, so minus 10, 44. Okay, so let's see what those settings do. Okay, I would just add a bit of contrast there, bit of clarity, and then take some. So just, literally I'm just fiddling. There we go, there we go. You see, so when you're taking shadows away, it can start looking flat and dull. So then you've got to go and put back some shadows. I know this sounds weird, but you can do it by using the clarity, which is a really, really nice tool. So that's looking really, really nice. What you then can do is go to your FX and go to your post crop, and then just a little bit in the corners, just slightly darken. And so your eye goes straight to this instead of the background. Do you see that? So did I sharpen? Yes, I did. So again, we're going to press Alt, open a copy. Why does it keep on showing that? I don't know. So there we go. Open the original. Okay, so that was the original, and that's it now. If you can go to Control L, and you can actually make it pop a little bit more. I think that pops it even nicer. So that's what I've done, and that was the original. And I think that looks really, really good. Again, it's fiddling with your adjustment brush. It's the adjustment brush that is the difference between a silver and a gold and a merit. I think that's awesome. I'm rather pleased with that. Okay. Next one. No, not that one. Powder puff. Okay, so we're going to open as powder puff. Okay, so the judge said it was a little bit flat and this could really explode. Now that's almost highlighted up. So what I'm going to do is, first thing is just come down the highlights. There's no shadows. I'm going to up the vibrance a little bit. I'm going to sharpen because it looks like it needs a whole lot of sharpening. Not too much. I want it to get noisy. Okay. If it starts getting a bit noisy, then you can go here a bit. I was going to go 5. I do it like very, very little because I actually don't trust it. I think it makes things too smooth, but there's definitely less noise, and I don't think we've lost too much sharpness there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, if you fiddle here with the contrast, you see the white kind of gets burnt out there. Okay, so we don't want to fiddle too much with the contrast. I'm going to bring the highlights down a whole lot. So we're going right to the end, okay, and we're going to bump up the contrast here. And I think that's looking quite nice. Don't want the green. If you do that, okay, no. But just to see the difference there. Maybe the brush, again, reset. And again, just play, because now I'm going to brush over, and I actually want some shadows in here. I'm just going to brush over the pinks. And just see, yeah, I think that's looking really nice. There we go. Also, new, now I'm really going to fiddle. I'm going to take even more highlights away. And I just go over this white area here. I think a whole lot of more detail is coming through there, which is quite nice. I'm now going to open the copy again. Okay, let's go and open the original. There it is. Okay, so that's the original, and that's what we fiddled with. Control L. Let's just see what that. Oh, look at that. That's what Control L does. Okay, so you've got the fiddle and the original. That's pretty cool. Okay? Okay. Okay, hope you're not bored. I love doing this kind of thing. I love taking a photo and just such tiny fiddles, and it just looks amazing. Powder puff, oh, cloudy day. So this is a landscape. Now, open as raw. Now I prefer lighthouse, Lightroom. I like Lighthouse actually. I love the music. I prefer Lightroom for landscapes, but yeah, this is absolutely fine. So the comment was nice depth of field, focal points. We can't do the focal point, but we can improve. It says dramatic weather and light. Well, you make dramatic weather and light. Okay. So the first thing I do normally with highlights is I take the highlights away and I take the shadows away. And you can also play a little bit. You can bring brightness with there. And sometimes I add blacks just so instead of filling with contrast, texture, something like that. And then what you do is this graduated filter. Okay. You then go to your texture, your clarity, and check this out, the dehaze. Checks what that does to clouds. Now, you be careful. It adds noise, obviously. Okay. And what you can do is you do a little bit of noise reduction there. You don't want to smooth it out too much. But literally just fiddle and see what can use some of your contrast stuff there. Add some shadows. Add some shadows. It's not really adding shadows. Okay. Bit more clarity there. There we go. So you're adding a bit of drama there in the clouds, but again, be careful. It's starting to add a little bit of noise there. Okay. So then we want the adjustment brush, and there's obviously no light coming through. It's really quite flat, so we're going to make our own lights. We're going to just put a bit of light there, reset, just something like this, and then just add a bit of light maybe here, and then here. Really, it's up for you to decide. New, going to reset. I'm going to dehaze these hills. Look at that. That's what dehaze does. Dehaze is a marvelous tool. Okay. I don't know if I want to chat. Oh yes, I do. Okay. Go. Maybe not that much difference. New. Let's look at the brushes. Reset. I'm gonna. You can totally sort of make this darker here, so the light really looks like it's there, and then you really go up the light there, something like that. You can just fiddle till your wildest dreams come true. If you want to put more light there because it's an outcrop, maybe put more light there. Probably too much. Contrast there. Clarity. Oh, clarity makes it. Oh, clarity really makes it pop there. So go to each layer and decide what you want to do in each layer, and you can just do whatever you want. I don't know if that works, but yeah. So the hills. Don't forget your dehaze here, your sky. You can even fiddle a bit more there. You take away a tiny bit of exposure, tiny bit of highlights, add a bit of shadows, nice big brush, and just look at that. And suddenly the sky is a bit more dramatic, but again, it's really starting to get a bit noisy there. Okay, so it would depend on the quality of the photo that you're taking. The original, so if you've got the raw file, that would be great. Okay, yeah, and then just fiddle. Put a bit more exposure there. Yeah, it's probably too much now. Okay, but that's how you can fiddle. Let's just open copy and then open the original. So that's the original, and that's what I fiddled with. So probably over fiddled here. But I think the clouds are looking really nice there. There's a bit of light patch there, as if a bit of light was coming through the clouds. That actually, I don't mind that. bit of light coming through the clouds there. So original and fiddled with. Okay, got a few more to go. Oh, okay, so Heidi, you got a 12 gold for this, but I still think it could be better, says me. Okay, I think there's quite a few detail there that you can still bring out. So I think the exposure in here is fine. Okay, so let's just look at what shadows does, and just something like that. Do you see the difference there? Shadows, and that's not even adjustment brush. Highlights. The grass is just a bit highlighted. This I would use the radial tool here for the eye. Just reset, just tiny bit of exposure. See what it looks like. You can take the brush, smaller brush, and then just be careful that it doesn't go too. Okay, so if you go too much, it starts going blue and green, and yeah, I think there we go. So what do you think? Let's look at the grasses. Resetting, clicking the little lines there, just a little bit. But now, you know, really just take a small brush and just pushing it back slightly. And by that I mean when you look at the image, you're not going to see it as much. Now, because this is so small, and you can make the brush really, really small and go in there if you want, but I'm making such a small adjustment. You see, if I made a big adjustment, you start seeing it in the background. But even something like that, I don't know what you think of that, Heidi. So open the original. So that's the original, and that's fiddled with. And I think that's really nice. There's not too much difference in the grasses, but there's a whole lot more detail there. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, no, we don't want to save. Okay, so I've got one more, I think I've got two more things here. Now Renal actually showed us this on the weekend, so, and she got a 12 gold for it, so really can't fault. Okay, but the judge did say image is a bit flat and can be improved with some levels and contrast adjustments. So Control L. Oh, okay, well we're in RAW, so I can't do Control L. So what we get to is, again, it's a couple of shadows there, a couple of highlights. I would go for some clarity. So clarity again adds shadows. You can go and take away a couple of shadows there. What does dehaze do there? Yeah. See, the skins are just like popping now. Texture. And I haven't even used the adjustment brush. And I quite like the shadows there. You know, it makes the texture stand out even more. Vibrance. No, you don't want that. Never be scared to fiddle with stuff. I love the greys and the browns here. But like, oh, what does it look like? It brings out the browns a bit, but I like that the very dry winter look. I think that's fantastic. Okay, sharpness, it's definitely sharp, but I always sharpen things anyway. And so there we go. In the raw file, this masking tool is very, very good, and it would only bring out the Ellies, but this is just a JPEG, so I think the sharpening isn't as good as it can be. Okay, so let's look at this contrast. So I don't know, you know, I suppose you could do that, but I love this just grey, this subtle grey and brown look. And we have bumped it up a little bit because of the clarity. Okay, so let's take some brushes and get some clarity going, and some texture, some dehaze. and just doing this. Let's go slightly darker. Okay, now in this case, I think the Ellies are really standing out. The background is maybe... do you think it's too bright? I don't know. I don't think so. Let's look at the shadows. No, we take away the shadows completely. Now it's really flat, but just take away a couple of shadows. Okay. Let's have a look at that overall. So let's add a bit of contrast there. Okay. One of the things I would do here is this. Okay, never make it obvious. No. Okay. So something like that. So just pushing the focus more to the Ellies here. Let's see what that looks like compared to the original. I think you could actually process this photo to death, actually. You could just carry on and on and on. Maybe make the background a bit darker. Where are the Ellies? Okay, so that was the original. And that's what I've done. The original. And that's what I've done. I think that's really, really nice. Look at those skins. I mean, look at the skin here. And then the skin there. Maybe just take a brush and just make that slightly darker there. Because my eye kind of goes here instead of here. Yeah, what do you think? Let me know what you think. Okay. Right, open as. What's the next one? And Cocker Swallow. So again, we're not going 11 gold for this. Nothing wrong with that. But the judge said it was a little bit flat. So one way to get light into your photos is to add a bit of white. But do be careful if you've got, you see that, without using contrast. Okay, but then it's going to start, any white is going to start blowing out. So you can either use white, or you go to contrast, you can do a bit of contrast. But I quite like that white effect. It also makes the colors pop without adding vibrance to make the colors pop. So you then have to take your adjustment brush, double up there, okay, and then just the highlights. You have to just go over a bit there and make sure you haven't lost any detail. Oh, there we go, details coming back there. Okay, you see it's going grey, but that's actually quite nice. Yeah, and so all we did there was just add a bit of white, which is really nice. Did he say crop? I don't know. Oh, crop. What does he say? Good composition. Branch is a bit dominating. Well, it's Garkloof. We're lucky there's a branch perch there anyway. Okay. So yeah, maybe still a little bit flat. Now, when you use Control L levels, the darks also go darker. You know, by using contrast, the darks go darker, the lights go lighter. So you've got to be careful not to lose detail in there. So what you can do is, this is what I do. Okay, brush over the dark areas. I haven't done any settings yet. Oh, now I've made it too small. Okay, and then sort of take away some shadows in preparation for the Control L. Okay, we're also going to do a radial. This radial is like my favorite tool. I do it everywhere. Exposure. Just a little bit, and we add a little bit of saturation. Okay. So let's do that and then go to Control L. And then you can also add a little bit of light there, but you see it's already starting to get really burnt out there. You can see that there's slight clipping there on the histogram. And then you add a bit of dark. You see, and so straight away, look at those lovely details there, because we went and took the shadows away from there. Could maybe even have taken the shadows away from here a little bit. That seems to be quite dark there anyway. Okay, so let's open the original. So that's the original. I don't know. Oh, because I cropped it, yes. So that's the original. Sorry, no, I'm not saying you have to crop it. The judge didn't say crop it. I just cropped it. So that's the original, and That's what it looks like now. So let's try get it the same size. So there we go. So yeah, I think it's less flat. I think there's actually even more detail there now. Okay, yes, definitely more detail there. And he just looks a little bit brighter and sunnier. Okay. And again, you don't have to agree with me. I think there's one more I wanted to do. I'm just turning the page. There we go. So this was Rob's open as. This was Rob, and he also got a 12 gold. Okay, so I'm not picking on people who got 12 golds. But the one was great position, now to focus as a sharp. The brightness can be toned down a bit. So, well, you can do exposure. Okay, but exposure takes away light. We don't really want to do that. So, how about taking away some highlights? Don't forget you can always add some shadows. And then, of course, you would just need the adjustment brush here. Just realized I didn't put my phone on silent all this time, and it hasn't rung. Oh, that's a good thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is just a little bit of exposure, a little bit of highlights, make your brush a little bit bigger, and then just tone it down a little bit there. Can even just go a little bit into the sand there. And so, don't want to go too much. There we go. Okay, and then we can even go to your FX and then put it tight. There we go. So all the focus is now on the pups. Your eyes just bang go there. I think that's really nice. Let's see what that looks like. And open. So that was the original, and there we go. The focus is just all on the pups now. What is the story of the image? The story is the pups. The background is lovely and blurry, and it's quite a distance away. So we need to make sure that it's not a major element in the photo. So there, it's a major element, and I think there it's just been pushed back slightly. I love this plant. It's really cool. So there we go. Okay, so that's it, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed that, and yeah, I hope we've all learned something. And if you think I got it wrong, then let me know. Cheers.